Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS current affair analysis for 22nd June 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled Fighting a Double Pandemic. This is about the growing incidences of domestic violence during this pandemic and lockdown situation. So this article is trying to identify the factors that are responsible for this kind of behavior and how this reflects the state of society as well as the position of women and their vulnerability. Although home was considered to be a safest place during this pandemic, it is definitely not the safest place for everyone. In fact, with this COVID-19 outbreak and lockdown in place, there has been a huge surge in the cases of domestic violence. All over the world, victims of domestic violence are more vulnerable and at risk to a frighteningly new degree of violence. So, even in India, last month, the National Commission for Women has raised an urgent alert about the increasing number of domestic violence cases since the national lockdown has begun. Even the international organizations have said that this domestic violence is turning out to be a silent pandemic because not many women raise their voice against this domestic violence. So, if we have a look at this, domestic violence has various dimensions to it. So, it is multidimensional in the way that it involves a pattern of psychological, physical, sexual, financial, and emotional abuse. So, domestic violence basically pertains to the big problem or the larger problem of empowerment of women. So, when we talk about this domestic violence as a problem that pertains to lack of empowerment of women, let us try to understand what health risks do domestic violence actually pose. In addition to violation of human rights, victims of domestic violence can face several physical and mental health difficulties such as risk of chronic disease, depression, sexual disorders, or even psychological disorders like PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. There can be substance abuse as well. So all this indicates that this problem is long lasting and has a larger impact on the mental health of the victims as well. So one major outcome of this is that victims tend to disconnect with the social support systems, and this is one of the reasons for an increased risk of domestic violence because they tend to be very silent and bear this problem. So normally the victim could flee a violent situation by staying elsewhere, but that option is not there in the period of lockdown. So is this a situation that is very peculiar to India? The author finds out that no, that is not the case because there has been a increased incidences of domestic violence even in the case of New Zealand when there was an earthquake, or even in the case of 2014 Ebola outbreak. So this is a global phenomena, just not confined to India itself. So this global level deliberations have brought us to a conclusion that there is a systematic and clear link that has been established between the quality of healthcare that is given to individuals and how individuals react in this scenario. In this article, the author says that there is a clear-cut link between the quality of healthcare that is being provided to individuals and how they feel safe or vulnerable. So, in a society where healthcare is generally perceived to be inaccessible, the citizens feel vulnerable, and this increases the stress amongst the individuals. This manifests in the form of domestic violence out of the feeling of vulnerability, stress, and helplessness. So, in order to ensure that victims of abuse are kept safe, access to health care is very important, especially that of mental health care as well. So, there is also this element of empowerment of women that we're talking about. And when we're talking about empowerment, we also have to discuss about the financial independence part. So, the key reason why many women were forced to stay inside their homes is because they do not have the kind of financial independence that, say for example, women working in corporate jobs, or probably women who were employed in the informal sector, especially the MSMEs, which is dominated by women. These set of women do not have the threat that unemployed women had. So this shows that there is a necessity for women to be financially independent, and that would also increase their feeling of self-worth as well. So what can we do about this problem? That is the question that is being asked. First one, obviously the access to healthcare should immediately be addressed as a priority. Second one, there should be focus on mental health. Thirdly, there is an urgent necessity to bring about awareness of the pandemic, the consequences of actions taken by individuals. At the same time, it is also important to ensure that when the economy unlocks itself, women are given a priority, especially in the MSME sector. Also, there is an understanding, even through scientific studies, that if a woman is employed in that particular household, she takes care of all the needs of that household, and there has been reduced instances of child labor. There has been reduced instances of the husband resorting to substance abuse, especially in South Asia. So keeping all these points into mind and consideration, we have to empower the women. So this gender based violence has been one of the biggest pandemic, and there were various examples as well. For example, the author quotes in this article about how the GDP of Seychelles has significantly reduced because of this gender based violence, that is to the tune of 4.62%. So if a small country like that can have so much economic impact, imagine the case in India. So the way forward is to create awareness, build infrastructure that is required for our mental health institutions, and provide employment as well as healthcare. So these type of measures will actually address the systemic issues that have been plaguing our Indian society. Above all, there is definitely a need for behavioral change. That is, it should be accepted that women are also partners in economic development. They cannot be subjugated, they cannot be treated as second grade citizens. When societies try to accept this fact, all these objectives can be easily achieved. That is the gist of this article. Now, in order to ensure that this behavioral change happens, the only thing that we can do is continuously persuade people to understand the consequences of their actions. That's it for this article. The second article for the day is taken from the Hindu again, and its title is China's Policy Lacks Perspicacity. So, in this article, over the past few days, we have been witnessing how the tensions between India and China are increasing, and the reasons for fallout in the Galwan Valley. So, this article is about how our Indian side is not understanding the larger picture, or the understanding of China's foreign policy is lacking in our Indian foreign policy diplomat circles. That is the opinion of this author. Now, what are the strategic objectives of China, and what is the way in which India should react? That is the gist of this article. So, what are the China's strategic objectives? Let us list them one by one. So, the author says that China wants to drive home the point that India can never be treated as an equal with China. So, in this case, the strategy is to continuously or periodically attack the territory of India to drive home the point that India can not feel that China and India are on the same pedestal. So, in short, China wants to prove that it is the boss in the region. Secondly, India has been partnering with various groups, say for example Quad, which involves Japan, Australia, US. So China sees this as a threat for its hegemony in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, again, China wants to drive home the point that it will not step back to attack India if India involves itself in these kind of groupings, which poses a threat for China's hegemony in Indo-Pacific region. Another wing of this strategy is that India should always be stuck in its neighborhood problems. So that way, India cannot be the alternative power center for China in this region, even if it wants to. So China would be protruding its foreign policy into our domain as well, and ensures that India will continuously face trouble on both the fronts. So we are faced now with a two-sided conundrum. On one end, we are dealing with Pakistan, and now with China, India has more than enough trouble from both the sides, so that it will not involve itself in any sort of plans that would oppose Chinese hegemony in this region. And also, it is trying to destroy all the alternative options and all the alternative opinions about China being the only superpower in this region. The other angle is encouraging Pakistan. So economically, they are involved in the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which again is a controversial subject, and that is the reason why India does not support China's Belt and Road Initiative. China wants India to accept this and come on board, but India has been adamant because of this China-Pakistan economic corridor. Now, China wants to use this very opportunity to instigate Pakistan against India and create the problem on the Western Front. So, this would ensure that there is instability, and again, to ensure that this keeps on continuing, China has been giving Pakistan many nuclear designs as well. So the author of this article believes that India should have a thorough understanding of these policy objectives and should refrain from acting in a manner that can antagonize India's chances in bringing up these issues on a global level and garnering support from the international community against this unwarranted Chinese aggression. That is the gist of this article. That's it for today. Thank you.